Blog Talk Radio.
Auteurs.
Good morning. This is Richard. I'm with Travel Auteurs. We're a new show on Blog Talk Radio. We'll be talking this morning with Tom Gates. Tom is an ESL teacher living right now and teaching in Busan, Korea. He's a Judo aficionado and a filmmaker. We'll be talking with Tom in just a minute. Welcome to the show. Tom, can you hear me?
I am with you, Rich.
Okay, great. Listen, man, I've got to tell you, I'm really impressed by your filmmaking. I really enjoyed the short piece you did on those little tiny shoe stores. I thought that was really interesting. What would you like to talk about? About Jade or the MMA fighting, or what would you like to talk about?
I have a whole bunch of different interests here, and being in Korea, it's just like a nonstop, it's a never-ending supply of ideas. And I've been involved in martial arts, but now that I'm here in Korea also, they're big in martial arts, and just being in Korea just offers so many different ideas, things that I want to film. So I do a little bit of everything. I don't know if there was one that stuck out for you. I mean, we can start with martial arts.
Well, whatever you want to promote. Basically, the format that we have here is that we start off with the guests promoting whatever they'd like to promote. Well, then we'll go and segue into travel or filmmaking.
Yeah, well, then in that case, you know, martial arts is something that I think applies to everyone, and even if they do it or if they practice it or if they don't practice it. So it's one thing that I've always been involved with, and I really enjoy doing it. Being able to go into a country like Korea and just to show the Western world kind of how they do martial arts, especially like their own styles like Taekwondo and things like that. It's just really a lot of fun. It's really exciting to go in there, get some of this footage, and put together a nice video clip to share with people either back home or in other Western countries or any other country for that matter.
The piece you did on Jade was I really was impressed by that. It was a really nice piece.
Yeah, and you know, that's probably my favorite video still to this date. It was when I really first started using a quality camera, DSLR camera, and Jade is just a unique topic too. She's an English teacher here training in a sport like mixed martial arts. She's a former wrestling champion, so she really hangs with the guys, but she really sticks out like a sore thumb because she's got the long blonde locks of hair, and she's just a real fighter. So I thought that people would really enjoy seeing what she does in there and just being able to see the studio that she trains in, because a lot of big names come out of there. So it was a lot of fun to do that one. That's still probably my favorite one, putting the clips together and all the editing that went into it as well.
Mad MMA, or how are they known as in Busan?
Yeah, they're the name of the team is called Team MAD, and MAD actually stands for Monstrous and Dangerous, just for the people, anyone listening out there that might be interested in that.
Monstrous and Dangerous, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
And there's a couple big names, especially if you do watch any of the Ultimate Fighting Championship stuff on pay-per-view. Kim Dong-hyun is probably the biggest name right now in all of Korea, and he trains right there. And ironically, I just moved to a new school. I'm in a different location, and I am walking distance to that school, so I'll be able to train there again pretty soon. So that'll give me some more things to film, and I just have a whole queue of stuff that I want to do with martial arts while I'm here in Korea.
You know, what's unique about Jade is you can tell she's a tough girl. I mean, she's really dedicated to what she's doing, but she's also very feminine. And some of these girls, they're a little rough around the edges, but Jade really just seems to really balance it really well.
You know, you absolutely hit it on the head. That is such an accurate portrayal of her. She is really an intense, top-notch competitor, but she's 100% girly and feminine, not, I guess, for lack of better words, not in the manly way that a sport like this would attract some of the female fighters. And I think that, again, that's just another thing about her, that a lot of women have watched that video, and it makes them feel like, hey, I can go in there. What is this MMA stuff? That looks like it's fun, kicking butt and stuff like that. So, yeah, you definitely hit it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you just did a piece with the round table with the three girls talking about their experiences in Korea and dating and racism and different things. So you see a little bit of her other side in that piece as well. I was just over at the Atlanta Korean Film Festival. I did ask your question to director Kim Ji-woon, and he did answer it. So I will be posting that Got your name out there. I prefaced everything talking about you real. So I said this is coming from Tom Gates, SeoulTee, and the Red Dragon Diaries. Got your name out there. It's just the movers and shakers. So let me ask you: you've got the looks, you've got a great presentation. Are you looking to perhaps get into the Korean cinema while you're there, or television, or be an actor, or what are you pursuing as far as your own road to filmmaking?
Well, I appreciate that. I have never even considered that venue, to be honest with you, in terms of like acting or anything like that. My situation really is, I was a guy that was working in the IT industry back home, and then the economy thing happened a few years ago, and I ended up taking this adventure, and I just started randomly blogging and taking kind of little video clips of life here that you see a whole slew of people doing when they teach in other countries. Mm-hmm. And I really started to enjoy the whole sharing aspect of it and getting the feedback and seeing how much, in some cases, it really enriched people's lives. I mean, some of the questions I get are very intimate in nature, and they're really looking for answers, and that's one of the reasons why I started making them. And then I started seeing how some of the other guys, not necessarily bloggers in Korea, but just other big YouTube guys, were putting their videos together, and I said, hey, that looks like a lot of fun. I really think it would convey the message and the meaning of what I'm seeing here much better than like a little handheld camera or something like that that's shaky and there's no editing and things. And so it just kind of grew, and then all of a sudden my blog started to take off and some key things happened. So really my future is, at the moment, I'm kind of neck deep with studying. I'm trying to become a certified teacher, but down the line I have a lot of projects in mind, and I'm going to be improving my equipment, camera, all that kind of stuff, peripherals and that thing. I don't know, someday I'd ultimately like to be able to travel to any country that I'd like to, and either have the freedom to go there with or without a teaching job, but at the minimum have a teaching job, and film life there, which a lot of people enjoy. But for me specifically, it would be really cool to go into some of the big epicenters of the martial arts world and get some of that footage and put it out there. And as I get better with actually taking the footage and then editing it afterwards, I look forward to really putting together some nice pieces that will really make an impact on people, especially martial arts fans and things like that.
You're well along the way. Your videos have, from the beginning, you can tell your heart was in it, first of all, but you've really improved in the filmmaking style. You're getting your own style. I just want to encourage people to really go to SeoulTee on YouTube, SeoulTee, and watch some of your videos. They're really, really well done.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I think what you said is really key. It's really, there's a passion to share this world of stuff that goes along with being a foreign teacher, and that's kind of one of the main driving forces of thinking of ways that I can really catch the person back home and get their attention and say, look at this is really cool. And that's really exciting. Whether or not they watch it is beside the point. It's just fun, the process of putting it together and thinking about how people are going to react to it and take to it. So, yeah.
That's the way to look at it. It's got to be fun for you. If it's not, that's the thing about some filmmakers. They get into it, they get kind of jaded, and it's like, why did you get into it in the first place? You've got to have fun in order to bring it across. I mean, you could do it by the numbers and maybe trying to manipulate people and stuff like that. And there are people that do that. I think at the heart, you have to really enjoy what you're doing and love it.
Yeah, and this whole world of teaching abroad and YouTubing and filmmaking and blogging has really shown me a potential road that could replace my previous career, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to making a reality. And this filmmaking for YouTube is one of those aspects, and I put a lot of time into trying to just improve, like I said before, how I'm capturing the different angles and just what it's going to look like to the person. So it's a fun road, and I'm looking forward to it the next few years.
You're filling a niche here where you're talking about going around and perhaps teaching and then filming martial arts in different parts of the world. That's a unique perspective. Would you call it a dojo, or what would you call it in Judo, Tom, that you go to?
Yeah, it's a dojo is how we would commonly know it in the West, but the Korean term for it is actually dojang, which is a similar, it's a similar word.
Dojang, okay. Now listen, yep. I understand that your teacher, I've watched a number of your videos from the dojang, and I believe he's like 67 years old, but the man is fit. He's like a 35-year-old. It's amazing to watch some of the videos you've done with him and his exercising He seems to be an amazing man.
He
Can
really
you talk
is.
a little bit about him?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I'm gonna go away from Korea someday, and that's, you know, just being part of that world at that dojo is going to be one of the highlights. He's a superhuman individual, and he's about 65, 66 years old, and he's a 7th degree black belt in Judo, and Korea has a rich history in the sport. They're one of the most successful programs in the world. It's an Olympic sport. What's so interesting about this story, why I'm going to go away with such a fond memory, is I'm located on an island that's just separated from the mainland of Busan by a couple bridges. He is just kind of located in a little downtown area, and he's absolutely this hidden gem, just like you would see in a movie story. It's an absolute storyline. And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm saying, you know something, this guy is amazing, his physical abilities. So early on when I first got here, I said, you know, I had somebody translate, can I just take a few clips of you doing some of your exercises there, because those are elite level strength feats. So let me just grab those. I think they'd be interesting. Well, wouldn't you know it, I took the film clips, and I threw my camera in my bag for about a month and a half. And I never thought of it again. One day I was bored. I said, let me just piece these things together and throw it up there, because I think some people get a kick out of this. And before you know it, the thing went ballistic, and you had professional wrestlers that were tweeting it. There were huge fitness gurus that were tweeting. The thing went kind of crazy for a while there. Well, it's still my most popular video clip, ironically, and it is an inspiration to hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Later on, there's a TV show in Seoul that is like one of those variety shows where they bring guests on, and it's kind of a lighthearted show where they crack jokes and do things like that. Well, wouldn't you know that they called my school, this from Seoul, I'm on the other end of the country, said, are you this guy that did this film? Because we want your master instructor to come up to Seoul and be on this television program and show and get to know him and his history and all that. And they brought him, they shipped him up there for a few days and put him on this national television show. Just a highlight to that whole thing. And I just felt so good about that, because he's been in judo his whole life, and he's at a time in his life where he's probably like, well, this is, you know, this is what I do, and, you know, humdrum. And then, boom, this happened to him, and I think it was so fitting that the recognition was given to this hidden gem on the outskirts of this island that I live on the back end of Busan. It's just such a great storyline how it unfolds. You can't plan a story like that.
That's a tremendous story. I'm glad to hear that. You know, he seems like such an interesting character just from the short time you see him on camera.
Yeah, he's very interesting. Very encouraging. It's an encouragement to be around him, and seeing him really also made me start this. The way it impacted so many people around the world. That, you know what, I need to share him more with people, and I need to do better videos of him, not this shaky camera stuff. And that's when I started to do some of the instructionals and just piece some stuff together later on.
Well, it shows that you're really spending time and increasing production value on every one that you do. You can tell with the editing and just everything you do. Now, let's get to a little bit of the ESL teaching, because on the show I try to promote positive things and things that can help others. In your case, the ESL teaching, you shoot pretty straight. You have some videos that tell people, look, if you have such and such an attitude, you know, don't come to Korea, don't teach. But tell us a little bit about your ESL teaching, how you got started. So just kind of take me through it. Tell us a little bit about ESL teaching.
All right. Well, it really started back when I graduated from college, which was 1995, a long time ago. And I had a friend of mine that, and this is before the internet, if you can believe that. So there was no Facebook or way to keep in contact back home. So she really braved it and went to Korea to teach. And I said, you know, that would be a great way for me to go to Japan or Korea to train in judo. This is when I was young and strong, and so I wanted to do that. Well, that never happened. But then in 2008, the economy hit the fan. I was trying to piece together contracts in the IT industry, both between New York and Florida, and it was just a mess. And I said, you know what, this might be a great time to revisit that notion. So let me just see what that's all about. And before you know it, I was well on my way to putting the documentation together, and I ended up here. I'm in the EPIC program, the English program in Korea. It's the public school program for Korea. I started to really see this English teaching, ESL teaching globally as a great opportunity. Now, I won't be able to do the EPIC thing forever. It's really a kind of an entry level way to get into it, and it's really probably better for younger people. Still, it's been great for me, and it really gave me an eye-opening experience. So I started exploring, how can I make this last? How can I further this and make it into something that will couple and team with YouTube stuff that I'm doing and blogging that I'm doing and make it one big package? And so I started looking into certifications. I got a TESOL certification, a basic one. And I noticed that a lot of countries, especially in the Middle East, Malaysia, Taiwan, in addition to Korea and Japan, that are really upping the requirements for ESL teachers, but they're paying you for it. So in order to get into those better positions, you really need to have better qualifications, and that includes a teaching credential back home. So I'm in the process of getting my teaching certificate in the state of Florida. And so once I get that, it'll probably be time for me to leave. Only God knows the future. But when that time comes, I'll be better suited to go and look for some better paying jobs, maybe with a little more responsibility, a little more involved type of teaching, like in the Middle East or Taiwan, Malaysia, or get into other industries. I have a friend that recently took a position in the Middle East in the aviation industry for teaching ESL. The oil companies are hiring, and they pay very well. So there's a lot of opportunity there. So I saw this whole picture of teaching abroad, filming abroad, blogging abroad as a new life for me if I put the due process in there. And so that's where I'm at now. That's basically where I'm at.
So Tom, are you saying, I remember you did a video talking about the difference between being a private school teacher and a public school teacher. So you have that, one of the aspects is that you have more time on your hands when you are a public school teacher, but the requirements are much higher in order to become and to work in a public school. So are you saying that basically if a person were to come and want to teach in a public school, would they need a bachelor's degree as a minimum, or what would they need as a minimum in order to get in and to teach in a public school?
Well, your two big countries for hiring public school ESL positions are Japan and Korea, and China's going to be very big too. Their main requirements are you need to be from an English-speaking country, and there's about 8 or 10 on that list. Then you need to have a bachelor's degree, and it's a bachelor's degree in any discipline. You could have a bachelor's degree in art, and you can still qualify for it. So those are the only 2 requirements that you need, because it's really an entry-level thing. You're more or less an assistant teacher supporting the efforts of the main Korean teacher, and you're there for exposure to the language. But when you start to get into programs like, say, in the Middle East public school system or Malaysia or things like that, those are highly developed programs now. Middle East has changed its core language of instruction to English, so you're going to need to have a minimum of 2 years teaching experience. A lot of them want you to have an English degree. Across the board, you're going to need a teaching credential from back home, but they do pay better. Getting back to your original question, Hagwon's, the private schools in Korea, essentially the same requirements. You need to have a college degree. You need to be from an English-speaking country. But those are hit and miss. If you walk down the street in Korea, you could see a little private English school above some convenience store that's about 800 square feet, and you don't know the reputation of it. You don't know the strength of it or anything like that. That's the danger of it, and that's why I prefer going the public school route, because it is a government agency, and to get into the public school jobs in other countries, the requirements are going to be a little more stringent because of that. You're getting security, you're getting a good pay, you're getting, the backing of the government.
I've seen a lot of videos and read a lot about the private school teaching it's kind of like you're saying, it's kind of hit and miss. You might go with some that are a little shady. Maybe they don't pay you. It seems like the public school, if you have the education, that would be the one to go with. Plus, it seems like the private schools really work you hard, and you don't have that much time or little time to really enjoy the country that you're staying in.
Yeah, that can happen too. And with the public school, you're done at a distinct time, and some of these schools want you to be there for promotional events or to recruit students, stuff like that, because it is a private business. It's a business, and their business is education, whereas the public school is there for education. So it's a very different concept. So you're done when the school day is over, and you have a huge amount of time to take part in sightseeing, hanging out with friends, meeting people from other countries, doing martial arts, filmmaking, blogging, whatever you want to do, studying.
Well, I really encourage people to watch your videos on ESL teaching, besides your other videos on living in Korea, that you really shoot straight. There's some people that like kind of hype up all the positive and then eliminate the negative, but you balance it really well with the positive and negative teaching there. So, Tom, let me ask you now. We like to talk about the kit that people use in filmmaking. What camera are you using? What sound equipment? What editing tools are you using? Have you upgraded? Tell me a little bit about what you're using right now.
Well, recently I've been using a Canon, the 550D. So it's a camera that actually doesn't exist anymore. It was replaced by the 600D. And my goal is, once I get some of the studying out of the way, to upgrade that to probably like a 650D or like a 70D or one of those better DSLR cameras with some better lenses, like a 50mm lens. I do definitely need to get a separate microphone. The microphones on most of these cameras really don't cut it, especially for personal vlogging or interviewing and things like that. So,
what are you thinking about using for sound?
I've just started looking at it, and I'm kind of keeping myself in a budget for the camera and the microphone tripod to be somewhere around $1,000 or $1,100. Some of the shops here in Korea, they do undercut the prices if you pay in cash. I guess it's the same back home, especially for the cameras. So some of the deals that I can find in the shopping districts here are going to save me a few bucks, even as opposed to if I even bought it online at some of the better online companies. But the microphone, I'd like to stay around under $200 for the microphone, which should get me a decent microphone. If it doesn't, then I'm in trouble.
No, I think you can get something. I don't know if they have Craigslist or something. Can you pick up used equipment as well over there?
That's not a bad idea. I know that B&H has a lot of used equipment. The thing with the issue with me here is that I'm in Korea, so shipping is the hard part. So
that's true of all world travelers. That's always the hard thing, is getting it to where you're saying. Tom, we're going to have to wrap it up. We're down to about a minute now. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is actually our first show. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. Encourage people to watch SeoulTee, SeoulTee, on YouTube, and also read Tom's blog, which is the Red Dragon Diaries. Tom, we wish you the best of luck. We'll continue to see your work on YouTube as you progress. Thank you very much for joining us on Travel Auteurs.
Thank you, Rich.
We will be speaking next with Andy Graham of Hobo Traveler. We had a little bit of a problem the other day where we had to cancel the show, but Andy will be coming up this week, as well as Dean Treadway from Filmmaker. Thank you for staying tuned and listening to Travel Auteurs on Blog Talk Radio.